So let's start with this first one. I've already done some things, obviously, that I'll talk to you about. But what you want to do first, as the 5 steps identify, is to label the subject of the major premise. So I've done that here. It's liberals. Then you want to label the predicate, or the verb phrase, of the major premise. And that's wanting to ban offshore drilling. So underline that, or bracket it, or identify it somehow. And then you go to the minor premise, and you want to identify the subject of the minor premise, which in this case is conservationists. And so we did that. Now you don't need to identify the predicate of the minor premise because that's already been identified, right? Wanting to ban offshore drilling. So don't look at the conclusion because that messes everybody up. So you say, do liberals want to fall inside, outside, or overlap the class of people who want to ban offshore drilling? So I don't care if it said people against offshore drilling. You wouldn't read it any other way than what it says, which means X, liberals, falls inside the class Y of offshore drilling. So you draw first the predicate, which in this case is wanting to ban offshore drilling. So here it is, the outer circle. If it said some liberals, it would be overlap. If it said no liberals, it would be exclusion. So here's liberals falling inside the banning of offshore drilling. Then it says conservationists want, should be, to ban offshore drilling. So it doesn't say anything else but the relationship between the class of conservationists and the class of people who want to ban offshore drilling. So it says conservationists fall inside that class, but it doesn't say conservationists fall inside the class of liberals. And that's why if you read the conclusion as you're doing the diagram, it would mess you up. So you put conservationists inside the circle of banning offshore drilling, just like you did with liberals. But you don't put conservationists inside of liberals because the minor premise doesn't state that. Once you've drawn the diagram, then you compare it to the conclusion. And in this case, the conclusion says conservationists are liberals. Does this diagram say that? No. It would have to have conservationists inside of this circle of liberals for it to be that. So you know that since they don't match, you have invalid structure. So that is definitely going to make an unsound argument, because for a sound argument, you need both valid structure and acceptable premises. And here, if we start doing the acceptable premises, liberals want to ban offshore drilling. That is a highly probable premise. But I'm sure there's some liberals out there that own stock in oil and are okay with offshore drilling. And the same is true of conservationists. So in this case, the major premise is unacceptable. The minor premise is unacceptable. The structure, as we've already identified, is invalid because the diagram doesn't match what the conclusion says. So in this case, because you have unacceptable premises, invalid structure, the argument is unsound. So you would finish this by, if I can do it here, saying invalid structure, 2 unacceptable premises, unsound argument. That's how you would do that problem.